There's a version of my grief that no one ever sees. There's the kind of grief I can talk about, the kind that shows up in tears or memories or stories about my person. And then there's the kind that I hide. The grief that makes me shut down mid conversation. The grief that makes me scroll my phone for hours just to not feel anything. The grief that makes me snappy, quiet, withdrawn. The kind that people mistake for being off or in a mood. This version of me is not poetic. The sharp and weird and hard to explain. It shows up on random Tuesdays or in the grocery store when I see something that they used to love, or when someone says, "You seem better," and I want to scream because part of me feels like I'm not. And I don't know if that part of me ever will feel like they are better. Sometimes the grief I hide is the worst kind because it's the one I feel alone in. But if you've got a version of grief that no one else sees, if you're carrying it silently just to make other people more comfortable, just know you're not the only one. You're not weird or broken or doing it wrong. You're grieving, and some parts of grief don't need to be pretty. They just need to be real. This is for those who are carrying grief that no one sees. We don't typically have the conversations about grief, maybe because they're uncomfortable conversations and people might not know how to have the conversations. A lot of people aren't really the best at emotional comfort or empathy, but grief is something that we all deal with, or something that we'll all have to go through. And we don't talk enough about how grief impacts us on our day-to-day and our personal lives. And honestly, we don't really take the amount of time that we need to process things that we are grieving from. Mainly because life does not stop when you are grieving, whether that be from the loss of a person, a loved one, the loss of a relationship or a friendship from someone who's still existing, or just grieving a life that you had envisioned that is completely different than what you currently have, or a version of yourself that you wanted and realized that you no longer will have the opportunity to become. It could also mean too that you're grieving a version of yourself that you have to let go of in order to become the version of yourself who is the person who you envision.
I don't love you anymore. Goodbye.
So today I want to have that tough conversation. I want to talk about grief and the ways that we experience grief, how they impact us, what that could look like. And then I want to discuss some ways that we can process it. Hey girl, hey, I am your girl, Sonya Star J. Welcome to Sips with Star, where the tea is hot, the topics are real, and the vibe is always cozy. Now, I'm not here to hustle you for a click, but I know if this video hits, you'll be back for another sip. So let's get into it. Now, I did take some time off from the channel to kind of recalibrate and figure out the direction that I wanted to go with it. Being true to myself and my heart's desires and how I want to serve and give back, and also being mindful of what people may need. So I decided to take the summer off. I haven't posted in a few months, like 2 months. But in that time, I did a lot of reflection. I spent a lot of time alone, but I spent a lot of time with my friends. I celebrated a birthday. I got a new dog. But I've been in the house with my man and my puppy and myself, and just reflecting on life. And also, August is a heavy month for me. I lost my brother in August, and I also lost my mom in August, 7 years apart. And grief has no end date. Like, healing is not linear, and there's no date to say you're going to stop grieving then. It doesn't work like that, and I'm noticing that over time it does get easier as I'm doing the inner work, but that's also something that we're not taught, or we don't talk about when the experiences happen where we lose a person or a friendship or another version of ourselves that we have to let go of. We don't really talk about that in depth like we should. But for my birthday, I celebrated with my homegirls. I threw myself a birthday party. I went horseback riding. I went out to dinner. I went go-kart racing. I really tended to my inner child, and I loved on her. And I recognized that with grief, it causes us to be disconnected. Disconnected so much so that we fail to be present, and we use things, food, social media, drugs, alcohol, to numb ourselves, to avoid the emotional work that we need to do, and to avoid the pain and the sadness that we could be experiencing. And so it was important to me for me to have this celebration of myself, because I was in the midst of really questioning, like, what am I doing with my life? You know, I'm in my mid-30s now, and I was going through a grieving phase. I was grieving a life that I thought I should have by now, and grieving a life that I honestly believed I deserved, and had to come to terms with the fact that I was not going to get, because my mother isn't here. And so when I think about things like my wedding was painful for me, because while I had so many wonderful people step in, it still hurt that, dang, my mom isn't here to experience this. And it was a very deep rooted pain and sadness that I don't think anyone could quite understand. And so in this next era of my life where I'm, talking about motherhood, I'm thinking like, man, my mom's not going to be able to be there with me and for me as I'm preparing for childbirth and, and for motherhood. And for a long time, I really let that sadness sit on me and sit in me. And I had to come to terms with, you know what? I have to move on. And that couldn't be on anybody else's time but my own. I had to get to a point where it's like, you know what? It's okay. That's the version of life that you wanted. It's the version of life that you thought that you should have, but you're not going to have. And that's messed up. It hurts. But what are you going to do now? How are you going to move forward now? How are you going to plan now? It is empowering in a sense to now be in this space where it's like, okay, well, my mom's not going to be here to do the grandma thing. So what do we do next? We start planning for a doula. We start planning for a night nurse. We start preparing ourselves to get someone to be in the role that I had hoped that my mother would be in. And it's a bittersweet thing, but these are the conversations around grief that we just don't talk about. Prior to, if you know that the end is coming from a loved one, to have those conversations with them, to be honest about what is to come. And so that's just on like the physical side of things. You have to choose to not allow the sadness to keep you captive. Because for years, I would just lay in the bed and just cry and sulk and cry. And I would let the sadness engulf me, and I would not literally be able to function. And there are days where it's still like that, where I'm still grieving the life that I thought I should have, and I get angry and I'm mad and I'm like, how could it be like this? But then I got to work on being present. So if you are a person dealing with grief, I will say that it's so important to have community around you, people that you aren't afraid to be vulnerable with. Now, I'm not a person whose misery likes company all the time, but sometimes I do. Like, sometimes I do want someone to come over and just sit with me, and if I'm crying, just let me cry and mind your business, But you don't have to sit in it alone. You can allow people to sit in your mess with you if you choose to, if you want to. I know that's not everybody's jam.
Another thing about grief is that I don't always want to cry and talk to people about what I'm feeling and confide in people. Like, I don't always want to do that because I've been feeling this way for years now and it's not going anywhere. And I don't always want to cry in front of people and be sad in front of people. I feel like a broken fucking record. I don't always want the people that I love and the people that I'm close to see that version of me all the time. Like, sometimes it's too exhausting to be there and have to explain to you why I'm sad and have to have somebody try and comfort me. Like, I just want to be sad by myself. That's depressing, but it's also fine. And that's how I feel like I prefer to handle my grief the best is when I'm alone and I can cry and I could look at pictures of my mom and I can just process it how I want to process it by myself.
Nobody wants to keep explaining themselves time and time again about why they're sad. And so there are times like that where it's just like, I can't explain to you what I'm going through right now. I don't want to keep telling you that I'm sad and you keep asking why. So I'm just going to sit over here in this corner by myself until I feel better to come out and say, like, this is what I was going through. I'm sorry. You know, I had to take some time, but that's honestly something that you have to do a lot of times. Now, in 2022, I went through a big shift where I was grieving friendships, and that is not talked about enough, I don't think, as we grow and get older. I was having a conversation with my husband, and he said, you know, when I was younger, my parents said, like, these aren't always going to be your friends. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if I recall anyone ever having that conversation with me, but I do know that friendship breakups hurt. And I don't think that I was prepared for how bad they hurt, but I also think that it's worth having the discussion about how wounds pop back up in your life. So me dealing with my friendship breakups made me realize that I was really going through an abandonment issue. I felt as though these friends were abandoning me, and I had to really dig deep to figure out where that came from and work on healing that, because people are going to leave. Not everybody is going to be around for every season of your life, and that's okay. Some people are just here for a good time and not a long time. You know, some people are just here to help you learn the lessons that you need to learn to get to that next stage, that next step in your journey, and learning to be okay with letting people and things and places go. I dealt with a lot of grief leaving home, like leaving behind everything that I've ever known, friendships that I've known my entire life, family members, things that I won't get to experience. There's a grief that comes with leveling up your life and choosing to have a different life. When you choose to become a different version of yourself, when you choose that you want something better for your life, it's going to come with grief. It's going to come with the feelings of guilt. And that's a conversation that I'll have in another video for a different time, but it's really important to address, because when you are growing and when you are shedding that old version of yourself, you are grieving the old version, you're grieving your old habits, and it hurts. And we don't talk about how sad that can actually make you.
It's no secret that we as humans are not very good at holding space for grief, whether it's something that we're going through or somebody else that we love is going through. A lot of that's capitalistic, X, Y, and Z. But something that I wish that we held more space for is the grief of self. Because I am going through a transformation right now. I am letting go of a lot of identities, of a lot of things that I said I was for a very long time and needed to be true. And I'm having a hard time expressing that that requires space and quiet, and that I am sad over that. And it would be much easier to say, hey, I physically lost somebody in my life. I'm going through a breakup. I lost a job. Like, those are things that people can understand you're sad about. And I wish that we knew how to hold space for the fact that people are grieving things all the time that are not physical. People are grieving sexualities, they're grieving spiritualities, they're grieving belief systems, and we need to understand that.
When I'm over here and I'm trying to level up, I'm trying to get to the next version of my life, I can't be doing these things anymore. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was talking to a friend, and I know where I'm at spiritually, mentally, emotionally, maturity wise now. Like, I'm growing emotionally, maturely. And so in my conversation with this person, I was giving advice from my mentally, emotionally mature self, but then I felt a sense of I don't want to say embarrassment, but maybe it was embarrassment, but I felt like I had to go low. I had to reach back and say the things that my old self would say, because I didn't want them to like be like, oh, she's too, she's too uppity, or she's too this. I don't ever want people to feel a type of way being around me, but I just had to sit with myself and say, girl, you're not that person anymore. Like, I'm not the club friend, and that's okay. Like, I'm the friend that you call. You want to go to the brunch, you want to go to the spa, you want to go hiking, you want to do all those things, but I'm just not the friend that you call to go to the bar, and that's okay. I mean, I'll go to the bar and I'll have a mocktail, but even still, I don't know if I'm comfortable going to the bar and sitting around crowds of people. I don't know if that makes me comfortable anymore. Like, I'm legit good at home, cuddled up in my bed with a good book. And a part of me is kind of sad about that. Like, wow, I used to be the turn up queen. Like, I used to be, yeah, girl, let's go out. It's 12 o'clock. We ready to go out. I was that person. And now I'm just not. And a part of me is just like, wow, But then that brings me to the idea of the 5 stages of grief.
There's so much to live for.
I want a bus to run me over.
Hashtag blessed. Hashtag grateful. Hashtag it's a new day.
Hashtag fuck off.
I'm journaling.
I'm fucking losing it.
I'm meditating. It's a great day to be alive.
Everyone can fuck off.
Another beautiful day.
What day is it?
Denial, depression, bargaining, anger, acceptance. Those are the 5 stages of grief. If you didn't know, you experience those when you experience death, when you experience divorce, and when you experience betrayal. And they don't all necessarily happen in that order. It's different for everyone, because everybody's nervous system is different, and it's trying to regulate what the fuck just happened to them, the news that they just received.
The last stage of grief is acceptance. Accepting that you'll no longer have the person that you wanted. You no longer have the relationship that you wanted, or it just won't look the way that you expected it to look, or life isn't going to look the way that you had intended it to. But getting to the point where it's just like, okay, that's right, it won't. Now what? I actually was watching this video where a lady was talking about grieving the version of yourself that you were before you lost the person. And I thought that was really interesting because I hadn't thought about that.
You know what they don't tell you about grief? They don't tell you that you die too. They don't tell you that after the funeral, after the calls have stopped, once you try to get back to your old self and your old life, you realize the old self has died. Without your consent, without you being aware, the old you died as well. They don't tell you about that. Nobody tells you how to grieve the you that you were before your loved one passed away. So we lose that person that we love, and we also lose ourselves. Not only do we lose ourselves, we lose access to our old worlds and our old reality, and that hurts. No one teaches you how to grieve you. When my mom first passed away, I wasn't aware that, I thought I had to grieve her only. Nobody told me that I would literally have to lose myself. And I searched for the old me. I searched for her. And when I couldn't find her, it broke me down so bad because she was all I've known. She was all that I was used to. I couldn't find her. And I realized that the old me no longer existed. And that was a whole different layer of grief. I had to mourn my mom, and I still do. But you mean to tell me I gotta mourn myself?
I hadn't thought about the fact that before I lost my mom, I was a young 13-year-old running the streets, having fun with my friends. But as soon as my mother passed away, as soon as we got notice that my mother passed away, I immediately knew I had a responsibility. I had to step up and take care of my brothers because my mother was no longer here and we had nobody else. I was now responsible for these 4 young boys. Despite the fact that we were going to homes with adults, these are my brothers. And that was made known to me at any point. Like, these are your brothers, y'all are a package deal. You take care of them. And so that was my thing. Like, I'm the eldest. And we're actually going to get into that too. Eldest daughter lore, core, guilt, all the things that come with being the eldest daughter. But I had to let go of that version of myself, that young girl who was enjoying her childhood to a certain extent because I was a caregiver as well, but grieving the life that I thought I was going to have with my mom, grieving the version of myself that I had before she passed, grieving the level of comfort that I had in the home that I was living in, everything being uprooted. And I never thought about it that way. So there's another layer to this too. Being women dealing with grief that we don't talk about enough or at all. I know that it's something that I've been doing a lot of research on as I'm on a healing journey, like an emotional healing journey, but just like overall holistic health and how grief impacts us.
So typically when you are at a place in your life where you desire to get healthy, if you are even trying to heal specifically from a certain ailment, typically we focus on nutrition and fitness, right? Which, don't get me wrong, these are two very, very important aspects of healing, being healthy and also expanding your consciousness. However, there's another part of healing that we have to address. And so this is your energetic and your spiritual healing. For women, it is very important for you to know that you hold trauma in your womb space, okay? So even if you're eating healthy, you're exercising, you're meditating, and you're doing all of these things, if you never address the spiritual and energetic healing that you need to do to release trauma from your womb and even other parts of your body, you can still manifest disease. And so for women, these are the diseases that typically manifest as a result of emotional trauma that hasn't been addressed or hasn't been healed, that hasn't been released. It is going to be things like fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, ovarian cancer, cysts, infertility, very painful menstrual cycles, blood clots, and things like that. The toxic energy stored in your womb space comes from trauma from various aspects of life. So childhood trauma, trauma that you've experienced from past relationships, past sexual partners, because you have to remember every time you have sex, that person that you're having sex with, like he's transferring his energy into you, and you're holding that in your womb space, right? Also, something else I learned from reading The Sacred Woman is that if you are a woman who's had a difficult relationship with your mother, that specific dynamic causes a lot of trauma to be stored in your womb space. So as you are healing and getting healthier, you have to also address the spiritual and energetic healing and intentionally do things to release this energy from your womb and also other parts of your body.
Many of you know that I'm a licensed massage therapist, and I'm really big on like holistic healing. I have a background in mental health, sociology, all the things. And so I've been learning about how grief impacts our physical body and our mental and emotional body. And so now I've been learning how grief actually, if you don't release the grief, it gets stuck in your hips and it gets stuck in your womb, and can be one of the main emotional causes for like fibroids and hip issues and inflammation in the body. Because when you have grief and you're dealing with grief and you choose to hold on to it instead of processing it and letting it go, it has nowhere else to go, and so it just stays in the body, in the mind, causing anxiety, and in the womb where your emotion, that's your emotional center, it gets stuck in your womb until you let it go. And that was so interesting to me, because as I'm doing all the things, like I'm eating right, I'm working out, I'm doing all the things, it's like, no, it's your emotions that you're not processing completely that are causing your issues. And in having these conversations, I'm just like, wow, and so I had to be honest with myself, like, why am I holding on to this? What is it about these experiences that I'm just like not ready to let go of? Back in May, it's my mom's birthday. And my husband is the sweetest. He does something for my mom's birthday every single year. And this year he brought home this black balloon that in the shape of a star. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I want you to write a letter to your mom wrap this balloon around it and then let it go. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And it was a beautiful gesture. Love that, he had the idea. And I walked past this balloon every day. Never wrote the letter. And I wanted to. I thought about it, but I didn't do it. And I watched as the balloon deflated. And I said, I'm going to write this letter. I didn't write the letter. And that let me know that I was choosing to hold on to the hurt and the anger and the grief because I'm not ready to let go of it. Because maybe I'm afraid of what's on the other side of me letting go of this grief. Maybe I'm afraid of the memories that I maybe think I'll lose by letting go of this grief. Not that I'm afraid of who I'll become if I let go of the grief, but maybe just not ready to let go of the anger. Like, oh, I'm mad at you. Like, no, you're supposed to be here, being angry. And that can cause sickness, and it can really impact you daily if you let it. And now I'm in the space where it's just like, okay, it's time to let it go. And so I've talked in previous videos about books that I've been reading and research that I've been doing. I'm actually looking forward to taking a 5-day healing retreat in Asheville this fall to get my continuing education courses for my massage therapy license. I'm really excited about that. Who needs to take a sip? I need to take a sip. I took a sip. So I'm really excited about that. It's a healing course to help people dealing with emotional wounds and trauma that get stuck in the hips, in the body, in the womb, all of things. And I'm, oh my goodness, so excited to take this course so that I can start introducing it into my own practice and come back here and tell you all the things that I've learned and just share the wealth of knowledge that I am learning. And so that's why I wanted to start this on a good foot. Start this new, I don't want to say series, but I just want to start the channel over in a sense so that we can be real candid about the things that we really need to talk about in depth without being afraid of what it'll sound like or look like, and just like have real conversations about topics that we're seeing that I really want to go more in depth in. And so I know that it's a bit of a shift from what I was doing with the vlogs and the cooking. I'm going to be moving that to another channel. And if the shift in the channel makes you not want to stick around, that is quite okay. I loved you while you were here. Thank you for sticking around. But I am grateful to finally have found a space where I am excited again and I'm feeling creative, and I can't wait to have more of these talks and conversations surrounding like social commentary, sociology, and self-care, all of the things that I truly love, discussing women's health and just all of the things that we deal with that we should have been talking about sooner, and a lot of conversations that are being held now that I just want to address with my community. So yeah, this was a good talk, y'all. I'm really excited for the future of the channel. And if you have anything to add, I would love to hear your perspective, your experiences, and just how you kind of navigate your experiences with grief. Another thing that's been important for me on my grief journey is also acknowledging how other people experience grief too, and showing up for people in their grief journey. Like if you know that somebody's dealing with grief, check on them. Like you would want someone to check on you, and also be honest about what you're dealing with. You don't got to go into detail. Just let people know like if you need help. If you are one of those type of people, reach out and let people know like, hey, this is what I'm going through today. Maybe I just need somebody to sit with me, or I just check in on me periodically. It's what I do. But make sure that you show up for your people who are experiencing grief, because grief is an invisible sadness. Like you would not know that someone was dealing with the loss of somebody because they show up for work every single day and they're just pushing through, and using that as an escape, using it to numb themselves. Like, I'm posting every single day online and I'm terribly sad. Like, I cried for a whole week, but I was very consistent on my socials because who's going to know that, you know? So you just never know what people are going through. So be kind to yourself, but also be kind to other people too, because you just never really know. I want to add too that when you are dealing with grief, that it's okay to not push through it. Like, be kind to yourself and give yourself grace when it doesn't feel better immediately. Don't beat yourself up for still feeling sad years down the line. Like, I seen someone say that they were beating themselves up because they were still grieving after 6 months. 6 months. I'm 20 years in the game and I still get sad, you know, but I'm learning to overcome those feelings and emotions of sadness by thinking of things that brought me joy, about my relationships with the people that I lost, the things that I learned in those relationships, positive things that I learned in those relationships, and forgiving myself for holding on to the pain, the sadness, and the grief, but also forgiving those people too. It's a journey, and it's one that I'm still on, and it's things that I'm still working through. I'm writing my letters now. I'm looking forward to writing my letters this month. And I encourage you to do the same. If you are dealing with grief, write a letter of all the things that you're feeling, journal about it daily if you need to, and just say how you feel and just put it out there. Do voice notes. I do voice notes a lot for myself. But just don't hold on to the pain. Don't make the grief your identity, because you can lose yourself in it. I've seen it happen. Don't let it consume you. Give yourself love, give yourself grace, and keep on going, because you have other people in your life who need you. You have other people in your life who love you, and they also deserve a version of you that shows up, but you deserve a version of yourself that shows up. You deserve to live your life, and the person that you lost, even if it's the past version of yourself, they would want you to live a full life, a life full of all of the things that bring you joy, that make you smile, and you got to hold on to that. Okay, and that's all for today. I hope you all have the most beautiful day, and I will talk to you soon.